Welcome to RSA Conference 2023. This is Exposure, the fourth annual SOC report. So here's where we talk to you about all the dirty secrets we found on the network. My name is Steve Fink. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Secure Yeti and also a technical consultant for NetWitness. And
I'm Jessica Bear Oppenheimer. I'm the Director of Strategic Alliances at Cisco Secure.
And my name is Dave Glover. I'm one of the directors over at NetWitness, and the three of us make up the team that actually run and operate the SOC downstairs.
Luckily, we got a lot of backup.
We do. And this year, oddly enough, we're going to get into it a little different than years past, in a bad way.
So you're going to get recorded. You could be on TV, all that good stuff. You got a disclaimer if you've looked at this before. And also, you may have noticed that when you first came down into one of the halls, is that there's a sign there about you got free Wi-Fi. And the thing with free is you got to watch out, right? So what we encourage you to do is have a VPN, have your stuff patched, make sure that you may be a personal firewall, doing other things like that, because we're watching. Why do we watch? It's educational to make sure that you can learn, and also what happens inside this open network that's flat. Could happen at a coffee shop. It could happen at your hotel if you're not taking appropriate security measures.
So let's talk about the SOC just a little bit, and who's down there and who's managing. So from a NetWitness perspective, we have 6 SOC analysts. So they're looking at combination of all the enriched data, all the rules that are kicking off, all the AI ML that's generating alerts. So combination of those, and then there are some threat hunters as well. So we have 6 from the NetWitness side. From the Cisco side, we have 10 Cisco analysts, right? They're looking at the information coming from Umbrella, from SecureX, and the other parts of the Cisco infrastructure there as well. We also have one IBM threat hunter that's part of it, right? We try to be collaborative, where we invite, on occasion, 1 or 2 analysts from outside this, this little core group to be able to do that. And then in addition to that, there are 3 managers, myself being one, Jessica, and Steve being the other. So that makes up, the people in the SOC. So if you went downstairs, you're looking, there's a bunch of people in there. That's really who's behind the scenes on this. That's looking at the information, not only trying to protect the infrastructure, but also providing education as well.
And of course, when we go to Black Hat Asia next week, we all work for Steve.
thank you. So how the SOC came to be here at RSA Conference. So as Jessica mentioned, I do work for Black Hat as well. Myself and 2 other individuals are the NOC leads at Black Hat. So RSA Conference was scoping out Black Hat, and they came to visit, and they looked at our NOC and they said, man, this is really cool. Why don't you come do this for us too? But they gave us a smaller budget, a smaller box, and we have less bodies. But it's also a little bit different. So we only monitor here. It's meant to be educational. We are intending to be an exhibit where we educate you, the attendees, on really how poorly you're doing with your security.
Not you, it's the other people that are doing it. As Steve said, let's talk about topology. So we've really formed a relationship with the Moscone Network Operations Center over the years. When we deploy to Black Hat Asia next week, we're going to put in all APs, switches, all that jazz, build the infrastructure up. We are the NOC, and we have a security team inside of that. Here, the Network Operations Center has been around a long time. They've got all the cool Wi-Fi in all these areas. And we've grown that relationship. Inside of your environment, probably you have your SOC and your NOC differently as well. Hopefully they talk to each other, which is what we've learned to do. So they install virtual appliances for Umbrella actually into their infrastructure. That gives us visibility to the internal IPs when there's something that we need to be working on. And then with that, what we do is we have a span that goes to a Catalyst switch, and then also that data goes to the Umbrella cloud. From that, we have the span going to NetWitness for the full packet capture, so they're able to replay, and Dave's going to talk all about that. We also have one going to the firewall for firepower intrusion detection. Not prevention, because we're looking for the visibility we need to allow you to do all the cool, crazy stuff we're going to talk about, because you're going to go to some fun demos, you're paying for training, you go into sessions. If we stopped all that from happening, that would be a problem. So the thing about what we do is context matters. We're trying to find the really bad inside of this sea of badness. So with that, one of the very first integration that we ever had here was carving out files from the network stream, sending them to ThreatGrid at the time, now Secure Malware Analytics, for sandboxing and integrated in threat intelligence, and then giving that back. But we continue to grow and get better with time, hopefully in your SOC environment as well. Let's work together through the API. So we send the log files to the SIEM over here as well. And now we're also taking that flow through the XDR engine for detection, and then all of that is going to Cisco XDR. So you have the stuff that's coming in from NetWitness, from the cloud, from Umbrella, from all these different places, and then threat intelligence is important, like was shared. So there's a number of companies that have donated licenses, like IBM X-Force Exchange, Alpha Mountain AI, Recorded Future, PulseDive, the open source stuff, Cisco Talos Intelligence, the NetWitness Intelligence, correlating that all together to understand the context of something. And then we have to, of course, talk to each other, and we use Slack to communicate between our two groups.
You just click it. So let's talk about the NetWitness architecture. NetWitness XDR is capturing all of the network traffic on the Wi-Fi network. So as you're sitting, in the conference, on the RSA conference Wi-Fi, all of that traffic is getting routed down to the SOC in Moscone South, okay? The infrastructure that we have for that is, the XDR solution includes log capture, right? So we've got a full NetWitness SIEM down there. So as Jessica mentioned, that's actually capturing everything out of the IDS and everything else. We have full packet capture, so we've got about 100 terabytes worth of storage down there to capture. You wouldn't think that that's a lot, but it actually is on the packet side. We also have our SOAR. So Jessica mentioned that we're carving out files and so forth, sending them over to ThreatGrid and so forth. In addition to that, we have our AI ML engines and our correlation engines. Now all of that works together to analyze all of the traffic that's coming in. Like I already mentioned a couple of times, carving out files that we're seeing, PDFs, executables, and so forth, that we're then routing out for detonation and for analysis. So here's one thing to think about as we go through this presentation. In order for us to see files, and we're seeing a lot of them, that communication has to be in the clear. We do not decrypt, so the only files that we're getting are in clear traffic communications. Surprisingly, we're seeing a lot of files this year.
And we really want to put Steve out of a job where there's no files to look at, right? That's part of this education is we don't want to look at.
That is the goal, right?
That is the goal. So one thing to note too, I mentioned we're capturing everything here, right? Every single data transmission that you're doing is being captured and stored down in the SOC. Now, that data will be destroyed at the end of the day, right? So we capture for the entire show, and then once the show is over, the agreement is that we then go ahead and destroy that data. So we don't take it away for other analysis and so forth. Generated here, captured here, destroyed here. So that's a question that tends to come up from time to time. So I'm going to quickly build this out. These are some samples of some of the dashboards that we have running down in the SOC. So what we're looking for here is, who are the top communicators, top bandwidth users, top generators of files, for example, top, protocols that are in use. So we use these down in the SOC. So if you've been down there, the questions that I've had, and Jess and I have had during some of the SOC tours, is this mock data? No, this is all real. We built this entire SOC between Sunday and Monday morning, right? And today we'll tear it down. We'll do the same thing next week in Singapore at Black Hat. But this is built right here. So everything that you see downstairs is real, right? All these dashboards are real. We are acting as analysts much the same way many of you would be in an organization, in a SOC, and in a NOC.
Thanks. We like to do bleeding edge because that's the fun part, right? So Cisco announced the XDR on Monday, and here's the screenshots. But this is the real data. So in there we have the dashboard tiles for Umbrella, the DNS, for the firewall, for the intrusion detection, for the malware analytics, for the cloud. So what that does is help the analysts see where there are trends and where they need to double click and drill down into. Thanks so much. I know, right? That would suck. Teamwork. That's what it's all about. We can also see the amount of, this is the terabytes, the flow that come through. As we see here, it was 65 terabytes of flow had gone through, and we'll update these. We're going to have a findings report that we put out. We have to go through our legal, the Cisco legal, the NetWitness, and also the conference. We'll be able to look at the screenshots closer, and our team at around 2:30 is going to do the final screenshot so we can have that data for you. If you came by and got your badge scanned, then you'll be able to get an email about that, or you can look for it online. But this helps us with how you'll see what's going on. This is the executive dashboards. When we go to Black Hat, this is what they're looking at. I'm working on the NFL draft this weekend. So the executives like to see these, what's happening. I'm working on the Paris Olympics, so this is like, we want to be able to see what's going on with that. But then drilling down into it, what helps is that as you see these different incidents and you're trying to understand what's going on, is to then put it into context and then bring in that threat intelligence from the different sources. Again, we're trying to make sure that it's just something that is happening for a target, for a purpose within this environment, and not something that's trying to attack the rest of you and disrupt your experience.
So let's talk about some of the stats. Now, unfortunately, I'm the only one up here without glasses, right? I'm fighting it.
Well,
I probably need them at some
was
point.
with you there, so we'll just put those away.
I'm going to actually have to read some of these stats off the screen because I really can't see over there. But let's talk about what we captured, right? So I mentioned we've got about 100 terabytes down there worth of storage space, and total packets captured about 18.5 billion. It's kind of an uncomprehendable number. We've also captured about 214 million log messages, right? And when we look at that, those are actually really low capture rates compared to what we can normally do, right? I think our total capture at one point was about 1.8 gig per second, right? We've got equipment down there that does over 40 to 100 gigs worth of capture.
Could someone do this themselves? Somehow, like they're hanging out at Starbucks, could someone just sniff what you're doing?
Actually, that's a pretty good point.
I can.
Damn,
Steve can. Yeah, so we'll talk about this a little bit later. So let's back this up just a little bit to when I was talking about the clear text traffic, right? So for those who aren't aware, when I'm sending things in the clear, so let's rewind back to about 2000, 2001 and prior, right? Everything was in the clear. What does that mean? I'm going to Google. I'm going to other sites, as you'll see a little bit later. I'm going to these porn sites, right? Anybody who is in your vicinity or anybody who is capturing the traffic, much the same way we are now, can see your communications. We can say, oh, look, Mary just visited so-and-so site, put in her credentials, and this is what she transferred it back and forth, right? So that's 20 years ago, roughly. And now, most of the sites, most of everything that we do is all encrypted, right? Which means you can't see it if you're sitting by. If you're trying to eavesdrop, you can't see it, right? It's just a big jumble of data. Ultimately, we'd like to be at 100%, right? From an analyst perspective, it makes our job a little bit harder, but from a security perspective, from keeping everybody from eavesdropping on everybody else, it makes much more sense.
And that really is our goal. In the corporate environment, you might have decryption and things like that. When we're working with the NFL, for example, they have one VPN. They don't allow people to bring in private VPNs, and they can monitor for that. Here, we want you to all be encrypted and be safe. That's what we're trying to help.
Right. So going back a little bit to the stats here, we've collected almost 800 gig worth of log data. Tiny small when you compare to a lot of larger organizations. We've also captured about 16 terabytes worth of packet data. I would have thought it was a lot more. I mean, this conference compared to last year is really busy. There's a lot of people here. But yeah, we've captured about 16 terabytes worth of data. And again, I sort of mentioned at that peak of about 1.8 gig per second. A lot of times when we're at Black Hat, like in Vegas, for example, we're seeing spikes 4, 5, 8 gig per second. So along with that, I think I kind of covered most of those. We've got about 40,000 unique devices. So that's your phones, that's your laptops, pretty much anything you connected, vendors on the show floor, about 40,000 unique devices. So that's a pretty decent amount of people. This is you?
Yep. So, as we talked about this, we are increasing and getting better at encrypting web pages, right? So sites are redirecting to HTTPS. We're seeing a tremendous increase in that type of traffic. What's shocking to us is we're losing ground in email. This is actually worse than it has been for the past 3 years. We're moving backwards. We're almost back to as much unencrypted email as we were in 2017. That is the whole point of us standing here and talking and telling you, because people are misconfiguring the simplest things, and we're now backsliding.
It's actually pretty unbelievable. We
Yeah.
were really shocked on day 2, day 1.5, day 2, day 3, at just how much email is unencrypted, right? Now, what's funny is, I actually do enjoy looking through these emails. I want to see what people are saying, right? When RSA conference,
But we get your bank records,
Oh, yeah,
we get your
everything.
receipts, we get everything.
So
We
when
have it
RSA
all.
conference used to be in February, right around when we started this around 2017, Valentine's Day, and we could
You're
read all
jumping
your.
ahead, you're
we could-
stealing her thunder.
About the emails, there were lots of love
Yes,
emails
lots
that
of
went
love
through the
stuff.
traffic. Not that there's
So
not
we,
love
we
now.
took this and we broke this slide out so that when you get the presentation in the future, you can actually look at it and decipher it. We're not going to spend a lot of time going over it right now, but just know that certain things are getting better and other things are getting worse, right?
Yeah, more details in the report.
So here we have some stats, what we did, what we collected, year over year, right? We were getting better, and then we started backsliding a little bit there. We actually saw more in 2020, which was interesting because that was kind of like pandemic-y era, right? And so we were here, this was like the last super spreader event before they shut the world down, so.
Yeah, so DNS queries, you can see how those have changed over the year. We dropped down a lot last year, and now we're back. So we see all the DNS, and go ahead, you can advance if you'd like. So by default, we don't block. If you were to go to your corporate world, be blocking on malware, on phishing, on command and control communications. Obviously, you want to be able to have, I saw one password. It was out there, lots of different signs up about their company, and here you see one password B with a B, and that is malicious. Now, if we stop this, because this was going on all through, someone would have had a really sad demo, right? And that's not what we want. So we don't block it by default, but we're able to see it and then look for patterns. What it will do, we can't turn off, is illegal activity. So when we do, and we have seen over the years, people try to do things that are illegal, they're unlawful. Those are blocked, and we alert on those, and then we monitor it, and we've even gone to the actions of working with the NOC to ban those folks from the network, and if appropriate, to law enforcement. So that's something that we do to try to keep this a safe environment as well. So apps world, you can see where the apps have gone up. They just keep going and going, as you see here. When we're looking at the apps, we have the ability, if we needed to, if there was an app that was unsecure, that was doing all sorts of really bad things, we could turn that off if we needed to. In your environment, you could control what types of app are on your network. As I mentioned, there's some organizations that you can block the VPNs, the private ones, and ensure that they use the current ones. So it continues to be an app world. Oh, my favorite time.
Story time.
I
Pull
love
up a
story
buddy,
time.
your favorite furry person or thing, and let's cuddle up and have some stories. So the awards, we love to do this, like what's the most used app out there? So Office got this place by Google Static, which was kind of interesting. And this MChat, I don't know how many of you use an app. People say, you see WhatsApp, can you see the traffic? They have pretty good encryption there, in the end, and Google has kept that. This new crypto mining, that's something that neither of us had heard about before. We're like, oh, that's new, but in the Black Hat, for example, we'll send you a notice if you're crypto mining, like, good for you. If you want to be crypto mining, that's awesome. If not, by the way, you're crypto mining. So we have that pop up. So dating, Grindr holds strong. They knocked Tinder off the board last year, and we thought maybe it was a head-to-head again, but Grindr's
Pulled through
holding.
at the last minute.
It's actually, they did better this year. Like the gap widened with Grindr, and where you get your porn, we always got to spent
What's
$2,000 on a
fascinating
conference.
about the
and
porn is it has spikes, right? So you guys come in the morning, and there's this little spike right after breakfast, and then people go to class, and then just before lunch, and then people go to class, and then just before you go to the hotel.
get those downloads on that free network.
But this is where we find out about the new porn sites, right?
Well, you know,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
We can only remember so many, and thank you for providing us with new content.
What didn't make it to the story time, but right before this, is there's actually a website for porn addiction, so you can go and have a message board, but it's on the F and clear.
It was an anti-porn site for once.
So yeah, so it's like how you overcome addiction and so on for it. But it was all in the clear, so all these people were pouring out their soul and their poor lost loved ones who couldn't stop the screen stickies. And yeah, it was all in the clear. And other things are in the clear too.
So this
unfortunately.
right here happens to be from a well-known security vendor. This was the only slide that I could possibly redact in a method where I didn't give away who it is, right?
They're in the North Hall.
They're literally, like I can't even, like I could enumerate their entire network from just the plain text, basically burps of data. This string is super dirty. Like this is passing in the clear just to authenticate to this security vendor. And it literally tells you all of the binaries that have been compiled into it and everything. Like this is super inefficient, but also the rest of it I couldn't even show you guys because I would have given away their whole network.
So what do you do in situations like that? Like they're going to appropriately notify, sit down.
In the past, we've also notified some other companies, Tinder being one of those, right? So
Now you're still in my thunder again.
At least it wasn't me.
no, this is how we fixed it, right?
No, right?
So Tinder, when we first started watching Tinder, the images, we could see the images. We couldn't see any of the information. We couldn't see any of the personal, but we could see the images. And so we had a lot of fun with that. You know, here's all these images of people going by and
A lot of them were mine.
this and
I
that.
was
But then we
single
got
and-
the idea to enumerate that. How many swipes left versus swipes right? And we created a dashboard for that. And that lasted for 2 shows. So Black Hat, and then here, and oh, maybe it was 3. Yeah. And then a congressperson picked up our information, wrote a letter to Match.com, and they were like, oh shit. And so they said, okay, we fixed it. They encrypted the images, but we could still tell in the telemetry swipe left versus swipe right. And so we kept that dashboard up for a couple more shows, and then eventually we got a letter from Match.com and said, we fixed it. And they did. And so we hope this security vendor is as open as Match.com was to our critique, and they can fix this.
So that leads us to, as I was sharing, if you want to advance it, is there's a dating messaging app I may have used in the past. I'd used it. That is doing, unfortunately, the same thing that Tinder is. All the pictures are in the clear as you're doing the little hookup, right, you know, once the session's over and you've watched all your porn apparently, and and you're ready for action. We can see your pics and who you're talking to. So that needs to be fixed.
All right, so let's talk about in the clear. My favorite thing, look, it keeps me in business. It keeps the SOC in business. We love it, but it's terrible. What we found, day one, remember this all starts Monday. Within hours of things kicking off, we see vendors on the floor transmitting their sales decks, transmitting their white papers, and everything else. And again, go back to what I said earlier, if it's encrypted, I can't see it in the clear. Which also means anybody else in that area that was sniffing off the Wi-Fi network has a copy of it too.
You know, and
So-
you want people to have access, right? And they did authenticate. You have to have a username and password to get to the site, but then it's what?
It's all clear.
In the clear.
It's all clear.
Transmission.
Which, I mean, look, from our perspective, that's kind of cool. We get to see their sales deck. Unfortunately, anybody else who's on the Wi-Fi can probably see their sales deck too. And any competitors and so forth might use this information, blah, blah, blah. Encrypt, encrypt, encrypt. Right? So you're going to see some more examples of in the clear too. Like I said, and like the 3 of us have said, this show, for some reason, has the most unencrypted traffic that we've seen in years.
What
Now-
happens when you bring 40,000 security professionals into an open flat network and we're security minded?
Now,
This
me who
happens.
likes to look through all of this, I thank you all, right? I get to read emails, I get to see play decks and stuff like that. That's awesome. I love it. I'm a curious, nosy person.
Luckily, there's
But-
a site for your porn addiction. as we
There
found
is.
out.
I now know that as well. I now know that as well. So,
He doesn't have a porn addiction. We're just joking.
So we also see a lot of people spend a lot of money to play games, right? So this particular game app sends a lot of stuff in the clear, part of that being the instant messages. They are waiting for each other to respond, playing the little game.
It's a
Spend-
ripoff of Settlers of Catalan. And they
Yeah.
saying down that thing, we're not associated with it. Well, all your data is in the clear. So what happens when stuff comes through the clear like this, then also, others can see that. In this case, and I don't know if any of you were in the class of 73, but they're having a reunion and they're trying to find a few more folks. So if you know any of these people, damn, we redacted it. Then there's the email address. You can imagine how easy it would be to craft a phishing email when you have this amount of information and say, hey, I've got Joe Bob's stuff, here's his, and click on this link. And then also, in case you're looking for a course-certified medical professional, the credentials are here for that. And then this one was really tough because there was this unsecured email that was receiving stuff that wasn't yet published. It looks like it was with a news organization, and then we get embargoed press releases. And this came in before trade ministers were meeting in Washington, D.C. related to the visit of the president of Korea with our president, and where they're going to be, what time, and what location. Again, that was under embargo. Things like this, that you sent to the press. So we found out where they were. We tried to find them there in a big sea of reporters. We sent them an email like, by the way, your stuff's out there. Come get it fixed. We talked to law enforcement authorities as well, just to make sure that they were aware and stuff like that. So it's just super important to understand what you're putting out there in the clear. So the one thing that we found in the clear last year was that this is through our firewall team, is that the SIP, the Session Initiated Protocol, people were voice over IP calls were going in the clear, and we were able to reconstruct them and listen to them. So like, I wonder what else is sipping out there. And so we found out, which is another dating site has all of their texts in the clear, and click on that profile there so you can learn more about it. So, we put a lot of trust in different vendors when we give our information, when we're communicating with others, expecting them. And when you talk to any DevOps people, just remind them like security matters, if you would. We always get to look at people's homes. What's up with that?
yeah, so
We start to feel like peeping Tom sometimes.
Yeah, so every time someone would pass by or there was a motion detector, it would pop off 5 pictures real fast. And
There's Bambi. Bambi's out for a walk, gonna go get a drink. But you got to take a look at all your IoT devices too, right? So it happens all the time.
all right, so let's talk about Fluffy here. This is my pet feeder one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Jago.
All right. What could possibly be wrong here? Yeah, okay, so Fluffy's in the clear and we can see what's going on, right? However, I've now captured this information. I'm a nefarious person. I have Fluffy's name, I have a picture of Fluffy, and I have your email address. What can I possibly do with that, right? So we talk about innocuous things and who cares if people see my cat in the clear, whatever. Like I said, I have your email, I have your pet's name, I have your pet picture. I send you an email. Hey, so-and-so, I'm calling from Pet Feeder Company, or I'm emailing you from Pet Feeder Company.
Because the pet feeder company was in the clear
Right.
text as well.
So I know who the vendor is. And we know that you use this to feed Fluffy. Here's a little picture.
Fluffy's starving
There's been a firmware update.
because you need immediacy,
Click
right?
this link in the email. Who's not going to click it, right? Because they clearly are the vendor that I bought this from. They have my cat, they have a picture, they know what the cat's name. Sure, I'm gonna go ahead and click it.
We don't even need AI to build phishing attacks.
And wait what happens next, right? So even something as simple as this, or the trail cam that Steve just talked about a minute, they fall under the, who cares if anybody gets that? It's the surrounding information that can be used for nefarious purposes.
So we're looking at the intrusion prevention, detection, and we're seeing what type of traffic. Again, we need to make sure that the network is there for everybody. People don't suddenly try and do a denial of service attack or things like that. Port scanning may not be a crime, but it's kind of a douche move sometimes, you know? And so someone's like starts port scanning the very first day, and we're like, that's not cool. Got their MAC and their IP address, and then the next day they're doing it again, a different MAC and IP address, and we see actually what is the product that's being used, and it's a handheld scanner. So this is again where you need to work with your network operations center. So we document all of it, do reports, like, you know, we may need to consider blocking this because it's scanning the freaking network. And they're looking at, you know, when we're Black Hat, when someone did something like this in Black Hat Asia last year, and we were able to see their machine, and Dave went and did some research.
I went down and broke some legs.
So he's like, there's their name, there's their LinkedIn, there's the name of their company, and went down there, was like, are you scanning? He's like,
No, I never plugged in my laptop.
so here you are.
And I'm like, is this you? Like, yeah. Clearly
So-
it is.
So something similar here, we'll coordinate with the NOC. And they're like, yeah, the AP where it's coming from is right over that booth where you told it was. So we went down there and had a chat. Like, we're not scanning, so we took them to the SOC, to the firewall station. Here's all your traffic. They're like, damn, we're scanning. We'll stop doing that. So they knocked it off. Again, we want to make it a safe environment for all of you. And this
Yes,
is,
somebody is watching. Everyone.
yeah, and this is the traffic. Like, we're not doing it. We show them this and like, oh, okay, we are doing it. So we see that some of you are taking pictures of us and videos, and that's cool. You know, it's like, this is my better side over here, and stuff like that. Well, this particular machine is, whoops, we went a little too fast. Back up, if we would. So what it's doing is it's syncing the videos and the pictures to a server in China. Like, as soon as they do it, it's like, which, now you can hit it. And there's a big reveal. So this is my, can you click it? This is my boss's boss's boss, who's doing a presentation and stuff like that. So his picture and presentation's currently in China on a server. But it's all in the clear, so we can see it. So, you know, my colleague, I talked to him last year. Did you get anyone here do booth duty? Booth duty? Anybody had to stand a booth? So when you do booth duty, they give you a uniform. And like, don't wear athletic shoes. And I show it to my team, and they're like, I walked 48,000 steps last year. I need some walking shoes, because that, right? So there's an app for that, which is if you walk a whole lot, they'll give you money. And the problem is that all their stuff's in the clear. So here's your name, here's your email address, here's your gender, here's your height, weight, here's how many steps you do. How hard is it, you can click it if you would, how hard is it to do an attack with that?
How much would I have made with the 92 miles I walked at Black Hat?
Seriously, this guy right here, he just goes and goes. Can you click it? So it's an app that you can get on the App Store. You know, you think that something that's been vetted and stuff like that. So it's, people ask us when we come through the SOC tours, like, how can I avoid this? Well, what this character does is he walks into the NOC at Black Hat. He turns on everything on his phone so that people will capture it and let him know. You can do it yourself through Wireshark or NetWitness Investigator or something like that, but just kind of be aware of what stuff's doing.
All right, this is mine, right? This is my favorite slide. Here's where I learn about all new porn sites. Now, you're at the conference. Do you really have time for this? I mean, I've been running around since like Sunday, right? But people are, maybe when you're having breakfast, lunch, as Steve had mentioned, I don't know. But this is where I come up with all my cool new porn sites to go visit.
Well, at Black Hat, we give awards, which is the longest session and the shortest.
Which we have seen hour-long sessions before in classrooms, and I'm like, really?
It still doesn't take the cake of the guy who shopped for a hooker for 2 hours.
That's true. That's true. And then, just streaming content, right? A lot of times, so here's one where they're just watching the game, is in the clear too, right? Stuff like that you may or may not have control over. The other ones, absolutely.
So what are we trying to tell you? Use a VPN.
Oh, I thought we were going to say thank you
However,
for providing us with content.
Make sure the VPN is properly configured. We've seen all manners of misconfigurations, even in VPNs. Send and receive the credentials in the clear. The initial transmission starts encrypted and then goes unencrypted. Like, we've seen it all. So check your stuff. Make sure that it's actually functioning the way you expect it to function.
At a bare minimum, make sure your email is going over encrypted channels, right? Check that box that says use SSL.
Yep.
And the amount of POP3, IMAP, and SMTP we've seen, unbelievable. I haven't seen that much in forever.
Yeah, for last year, we spent a lot of time with a person. We knew they were a CISSP because their receipt came through listing that they were Chief Information Security Officer. They went to Harvard, and all of their work and personal email was being synced to their device, unencrypted because they missed one check mark. So what did you do, Steve?
So I called Jeff, and I said, hey, Jeff, I'm Steve. I'm from the Security Operations Center. We're at the bottom of the escalator.
Sure you are.
If you would like to come by, we can help you out, sir. He came by the next morning. He attended our tour, validated we were who we said we were, and then he came in. We helped him find his checkbox and secure everything. One of the other things that really fascinates us is people like to keep their OS patched, right? Why wait until you get here? Do it at home.
Or Black Hat. It's the first thing
Yeah,
you see
it's
with Black
worse.
Hat is all the OS updates.
Do it at home before you come. You know, if you're here and the network's dirty, you might take a bad patch. Keep it patched. Just do it at home before you get here.
Great, so we have time for questions. Love to hear your thoughts and stuff. There's a microphone there so everyone else can hear it if that's convenient for you.
Just something a little bit more lighthearted. In all the years that you've been doing this, for each one of you, what is the absolute funniest thing you have ever seen come out of either the SOC or the NOC or anything else?
I have to go with Stefan shopping for a hooker for 2 hours. It still wins. I had to go meet him. After 2 hours of watching him shop for a hooker, I had to go meet him.
You know, we used...
I did, of course. That's what we do. Stefan was the AV tech hidden in the back of the room on his iPhone, tucked down behind some pipe and drape.
You know, we used to have all your JPEGs streaming through the SOC until we couldn't any longer.
Because it was too much.
Well, because somebody was also standing on the backside of the SOC one day just injecting images that we
Or
really
porn.
didn't want to show.
Yes,
Well,
that's the thing is like acceptable use policy, it just had too much porn was going through on the JPEGs. So that was kind of fun for a while. Like, what are people looking at, in the clear and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, mine is just the amount of email, right? Like I said, I enjoy reading them. So thank you for
He's
providing me
nosy.
with content.
In case you hadn't
I-
noticed.
Yeah, I like reading them. I like to know what people are up
It's
to.
a good thing that
Relationship status, everything else.
it's a good thing that it's all destroyed when they
Go
leave.
ahead, sir.
I get this question a lot. Do y'all have a personal VPN that you recommend? You said
So,
to use VPN. Do you,
Lawyers
I hate
don't
to have you
allow
all
us.
name drop,
yeah,
but
yeah. So lawyers don't allow us to recommend specific things. What I would recommend to anyone is evaluate your budget, your needs, and get the best one that you can afford, and then test it. When you are using it, capture your own traffic, analyze your own traffic, take a look at what you're actually sending out.
Sometimes split tunneling is turned on to make it ease on the network. And
Yeah,
then-
we saw one this go around.
but then it's not configured right.
Yeah, they set it up, they started their VPN, and then they went to their porn site, and it was like, you missed.
Any other questions? Yes.
I was curious, how do you discern from like demo traffic where they're putting, things malware, et cetera? Or
Yeah, yeah, very
trying
good
to capture
question.
that versus
So-
user conference people?
That's where context is king, right? So Jessica, Dave, myself, we've always mentioned context, right? So if it's not attacking the network itself, right, then we let it go, really. There are a few things that Jessica talked about, and she could touch on them again if you want, that we did block, right? And then we've shown you the other things that we did alert on, email people, call people, everything.
So for example, if a user is launching an attack against other conference members, we're going to find that, right? Essentially, we're looking for bad in a sea of bad, essentially,
And
right?
then
So
I'll-
if
yeah.
they're, let me say one thing, if they're attacking others, right, or if they're trying to attack out on the internet, that's where it's easier for us to see what's going on.
And that's where we proactively protect. And also, we're able to see when there's patterns, such as last year, every morning at a certain time, this machine would come online, and we could tell that it was an infrastructure thing that was happening that was with the Moscone Center, and that they had an infected machine. So we're able to work with them, identify it, report it, and they were able to go out there and take care of that. We had a vendor this time that there was like 5 boxes of their machines. They came online, they all started beacon out to a known command and control.
Yeah,
and
C2 within the first 30 minutes. And so we were able to work with that vendor in the expo hall and get them cleaned up.
because they came infected. So we'll look for things
And,
like
and
that.
it was rental, right? Like they received these rentals, they're setting up their booth, and it arrived pre-infected with C2. So
And weren't they doing screen captures as well?
yeah, it started grabbing screen caps and sending them back. So as soon as it got its first update, it started grabbing screen caps.
So I saw a question in the back room. Yes.
Someone raised their hand.
Yeah. that was
Sorry,
in the back.
go ahead.
So what enhancements are you planning for next year that you'd like to see in your setup?
Well, so we have a limited architecture here with RSA conference, right? Because they give us just a span, right? So we're purely in monitoring mode, which is not the same as what we do at Black Hat. At Black Hat, we actually own all of the infrastructure, start to finish. We only utilize the fiber and the physical wire in the wall, and we're constantly evolving that architecture. But this one is a little bit different.
Yeah, we were going to send you all links like download this endpoint agent to protect you here at RSA conference. And we were sure, no, right?
We'll include a picture of Fluffy, though.
At Black Hat, as Steve was talking about, we have endpoint protection on all the registration machines. The server is a crown jewel. If you were, we get attacked by actors trying to take that, and then also all the iOS devices that are used to scan in people when you get your registration. That's all protected by Meraki Systems Manager and the Cisco iOS. So that's when we've talked to the Moscone Center. We continue to give them ideas on their security back and forth, and so there's a limit. We started with just
Just us.
it was
monitoring.
just
Yeah.
threat grid malware analysis and doing full packet capture files. That's how we started 17 years ago, in 2017, and you've seen the growth. But we're always looking for more threat intelligence, how to make things better, faster, more telemetry, how to find, as we evolve and machine learning evolves and AI evolves, we'll be bringing those in as well to help, which is kind of how do you identify things in this noise, but tune it so because it's in a noise, it's in a bad in the bad, right?
So I will add one
Appreciate the question.
to your comment as well. One other thing that you as customers benefit from the SOC in the way that, so NetWitness is a vendor, Cisco's a vendor, and if you as a customer have both, you may run into some frustrations. You're like, I wish these vendors would just talk to each other and figure this out. We have that advantage. So last year, Jessica's team and my team worked together to build some integrations between the two different product sets. When we're at Black Hat, it's a few different vendors. We all work together and we all face the same frustrations that a lot of you face. It's like, oh my gosh, I wish if your product could just do that or could speak this way or whatever, it would really help us out. Oh,
And
really?
and next weekend, I'm going to be hugging with Palo Alto because
Yep.
we're buddies.
And we end up with much tighter integrations that benefit everybody.
Thanks for the questions. With what?
Do you monitor wireless access points? Was there anyone trying to spoof the SSID of the free Wi-Fi?
That's a great question. We see it at Black Hat a lot. So because we operate the Network Operations Center here, Moscone Center handles that. So they don't tell us if they see it, which I know
We
probably
really,
people
we
do.
really don't see that here.
But at Black Hat, while Black Hat USA, I was responsible for the network. That was the hardest I've worked since my Army days. And we had people that were doing de-authentication attacks. They were doing spoofing of the address, the SSIDs, that were grabbing APs and moving them, trying to sneak their way into the Network Operations Center. It was freaking crazy sauce. And but we made it work.
We always do.
So it's something that's really important. There was a function called Air Marshal that we use at Black Hat where we're able to see and detect that. We pulled pineapples out of bushes, literally, at Black
And the
Hat.
planters, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions we can answer for you?
Hi, I actually have two questions. The first one is why isn't AP isolation turned on the Wi-Fi to protect the
So
NTO
we don't run the network. We're only the SOC team, right? So we don't have any control over that. That's the Moscone Center, and we just monitor.
We do tell them, like, Black Network, what?
We have told them
Yeah.
time and again.
At Black Hat, you'll run is host isolation. And do you want to just tell what host isolation is real quick, Stephen? Since if it's not on, he yells at me.
And you have a second question?
The other is how do you track down the malicious PCs or clients to have some fancy triangulation thingy,
Oh, yeah.
APs or
It's great. I get the reports
is there
back
a
from the Scone
screenshot
Center.
or something?
Here's when they authenticated with that AP and what room it is and where de-authenticated. And you could put it into a program and see where they go. And we've actually done that at Black Hat where we can, if there's a bad actor and we've identified it, we can play and watch where they're going and where they're headed through the conference and take appropriate.
We will
sometime-
find you.
And get physical security involved if need be. Like when someone swiped our AP, we had their telephone, like because they had authenticated, because we see the Bluetooth as well. So we're like, do you want to be banned? So knock it off. They're trying to have fun. They were part of the social engineering class, and what else?
They plugged it in somewhere else, but that didn't work.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
how big's the pipe?
So, I mean, I can only go based upon what our max ingest rates were. So essentially, if you're pushing 5 gig out, we're seeing 5 gig in the SOC, right? And the peak that we saw was about 1.8, 1.9 gig per second.
It was a 10 gig pipe.
in the
pipe, wasn't
past, they've told us it was 5, but I've never seen it go over 3.
Yeah.
And so I think they probably have some of it carved off somewhere else that we don't have visibility into.
Just seemed at certain times during the day, things got slow, so I didn't know if we were, if it was the access to a bad access.
Yeah, we don't have any visibility into that, just the packets themselves. So. All right,
All right,
thanks everyone.
Thank you for your time. Cheers.